Welcome to the Property Couch, where each week you get to listen to two of Australia's leading experts. Bryce Holdaway, co-host of Location Australia on Foxtel's Lifestyle Channel, co-host of Escape from the City on the ABC, and partner of Empower Wealth Advisory. Ben Kingsley, chair of Property Investors Council of Australia and the founder of Empower Wealth Advisory, named the 2018 and 2019 Property Advisory Firm of the Year. Stay tuned as they bring you the insider's guide to property, finance and money management.
G'day folks, welcome back to the summer series. Bryce, good to see you here.
Yes, thanks for having me back, Ben.
No
It's a
worries.
relief to be invited back.
Well, you know, you do host the show, let's be honest.
Mate, how good was last week, kicking off the summer series with James Clear?
Unbelievable.
Mate, I had quite a few people reach out to me and say, that was an epic episode. I've let 6 or 7 mates know. And so if you did listen last week and you want to share that with someone, that'll be an early free Christmas gift.
Free Christmas gift. Two things, mate. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, what a guide. What a guy that shows people and he guides people to transformation. We're all about that. So that's a big story. And so if you haven't listened to it, go back last week, share.
Exactly. So before we kick on to the next one in our epic summer series, Ben.
Yes, just a quick little message, Bryce, in regards to there's a deadline coming, and it's next Wednesday, Bryce.
When?
For submissions for the regulation around the new laws that have come into effect in Victoria for the Tenancy Reform Act. So all I need you to do is this. If you own an investment property in Victoria, you have a duty of care to yourself and to others who are in the same boat to put a submission in place. Now, all I'm going to do is say, go to the show notes and just click on a link and it'll explain it all there, because that's basically how we'll get it done. Because we've got a templated submission form that people can fill in, because we need to get everyone's submissions in. Remember, deadline is next Wednesday. Because what does it mean? Well, it does mean that it's potential to affect the value of your property. It's potential to affect a long-term return and the yield you might get on your property. So it is really, really important, because this is already legislation. So now we're getting into the finer details, right? And so, you know, PICA wasn't established when they started this reform process. And so now we're building momentum, but there's over 670,000 investment properties in Victoria. And so we want to make sure that, one, tenants do get looked after, number one, but also that it's balanced out. Okay, so there's a couple of changes in the legislation. We've been there before. We all know about them, but you'll read it through the link that we'll provide, that'll take you to the PICA website, and you'll get that information. But you'll also need to join PICA, right? Because this is where we get that united voice, so where we can put the arguments forward in terms of the right balance. Because at the moment, the balance has been in the landlord's favour. We get that. We like a lot of the changes. We're very accepting of a lot of, but there's 3 or 4 in there that we just think are catastrophic and will not benefit tenants at all. And we think we need to get that right. So we're just putting that out there. So important message before our very special guest today. Bryce, who have we got?
Well, Ben, I was just going to say, even though it's important for Victorian property investors, it's actually important for all property investors, because what affects one part of the market can have a contagion effect.
Funny
all
you
of
should
them.
say that, Bryce.
Queensland.
Funny you should say that. So we will have an announcement going out for our Queensland submission, okay, and calling for submissions for Queensland. So this is effectively every one of us who put a submission in shows the voice that we've got. So for those people in Queensland, because I did send an email out earlier this week, right, and I've got a lot of great responses from our PICA members already telling me, you guys do a great job, and what are you doing for Queensland? What are you doing for Queensland? So the answer for that is that you'll be updated shortly in regards to that, because their submission deadline is the 28th of December. So we'll be doing something there as well. So stay tuned. Get onto the PICA website. We are very busy.
Show notes, Stiggy will put it up on Facebook as well, Ben,
Thanks,
so that everyone can get access to that. But we've got Gabby Lambkin today.
Yep, she's going to unpack her story.
And it's a good one. And it's about money smarts. And I am going to encourage everyone to dial into this, because there's a lot of gold in here in terms of, she has financial peace when she didn't have financial peace before. And I want to preempt it by saying, at some point in her financial life, she was, quote, scared and sold everything that she had. But then once she got a little bit of financial peace and a little bit of system under her belt, she wished she could go back to that scenario again, because she would not have done it again.
Scared and sold everything, Bryce.
Scared
into
into financial peace.
Organise, control and thrive.
Yep.
Trap the more service and putting her money to work. And even more than just once she got the money smarts up, what else did she do? She put a property portfolio in place. She planned to become what she planned to become. I can't wait. Let's cut to our interview with Gabby right now.
All right, we've got another very special guest
We
here
do.
today.
Very special.
I want to welcome Gabby Lambkin to the Property Couch. First of all, hello, Gabby. How are you?
Hello. Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
No, it's a pleasure. Hey, we're excited to chat with you because you've got a really cool story about how you've implemented Money Smarts. But before we sort of get to that, can you give us a little bit of background so we can get to know you? And in particular, if you could sort of talk a bit about what money was like growing up for you.
For myself, money wasn't discussed in the home. It certainly wasn't discussed around the kitchen table like you guys have often talked about nowadays. So my big deal is to make sure that I discuss that around the kitchen table with my family. The topic of discussion, definitely money was always short and we never had enough growing up. So I don't want that transferred to my kids because it sets a really uncomfortable mindset, I think. Yeah.
So tell us a little about the household. How many sort of brothers, sisters, mum and dad, whereabouts did you grow up?
Yeah, we were a blended family. So I grew up in Northern New South Wales in the country. So my father had his own business. He looked after all the money side of things. And my mum had no control over the money whatsoever. So that's why money wasn't discussed. Because my father had total control over it.
What was he doing in the bush? What sort of job was he doing?
He was a commercial beekeeper, so an apiarist.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah,
okay, fantastic. And so being a blended family, sort of how many siblings were in the mix at any one time?
So I'm the youngest, so I had 5 older brothers. I was the only girl.
Yep.
So being the youngest, I wasn't told anything about anything, and particularly when it came to money and how to manage money.
Yeah, so dragged up as the fifth.
Pretty much,
in terms of the current household, tell us about your current household now.
Yeah, so I'm married with two children, and they're currently 11 and 13, and we have a home-based business.
Fantastic. And what sort of business are you in?
So my husband is a consulting engineer, and we also are developing an e-commerce business as well.
Oh, cool.
Oh, very nice.
Very good.
Hey, tell us a little bit. That was a 30,000-foot view. So you grew up with 5 older brothers, and I'm a youngest too, so I understand what it's like to be the youngest. But who were you modelling for money then? Because you mentioned that mum had no control, so therefore there obviously wasn't that that visual sort of model for you as you were progressing through the life cycle. So what did that look like for you when you had to go from dependent to independent? How did you manage your money, and what sort of outcomes were you getting?
Yeah, I think what I probably looked at was one of my older brothers who is very successful in business. And so by the time I'd left school, I went to him really for advice on where do I put my money, what do I do? Not that I really directly asked those questions. It's more like, well, how do I save my money? And so he's probably who I went to the most because he seemed the most successful out of, my brothers. My father wasn't interested. He's very old school. He was born in 1922. So, very old school when it came to managing money. And bricks and mortar was very much his way of making sure that he was secure and putting money in the bank and not really investing it, just holding on and letting the interest accrue.
Sorry, go.
So therefore your brother was passing on, but what were you doing in terms of how was that going for you? What was money management like for you? And were those lessons that were passed on to you helpful or neutral, or are you looking back, you could see that there was some refining that could have been done?
Yeah, I've just had to find my own way, to be honest. So when I left school, I went to college and then started a job and obviously started earning an income. And I just had to model, I suppose, my friends that I had around me. And obviously with this one older brother, I would ask questions now and again. So it was me just finding my own way and just relying on the friends that I had around me to actually ask for, well, I didn't really ask. You don't go and discuss money really amongst you, do you? I mean,
well, we hope everyone would. That's why we love this conversation.
Yeah, and
it's a big topic.
Yeah, so when you're in those early 20s, I don't know, it's not deemed as important. It's like life goes on forever. So it's just like the next paycheck that comes in.
So what did you do prior to teaming up with your husband? Did you have a system? Did you was it just money in, money out, or does it sort of?
No, I had no system. My biggest thing is that I always wanted to travel. I worked in the travel industry. So I set up a separate bank account, put money aside to make sure I had money to always travel. And that was my priority. And to also, obviously have a roof over my head and be able to pay my bills because I was responsible enough to do that. And so when I travelled, I always had a separate bank account to be able to put money aside. But as far as daily management, I had nothing fancy, just pay the bills each time they came in.
So was there a problem with that, Gabby, then? If the money was coming in and you paid the bills, was there a pain point that you were experiencing in the money management? Because I know that, in your backstory, you've picked up our book and we'll talk about the Money Smart shortly. But was there anything in the lead up to picking up our system that sort of wasn't working for you, even though, maybe it wasn't as optimum as you're doing now?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously when you're in your 20s, you float along and you live each week to week. But then I hit my 30s and obviously got married and then had children. And all of a sudden, it's not all about you. You're all of a sudden managing not just your money, but everyone else's money. I'm very fortunate that my husband, we're very neutral and in agreement when it comes to managing our money and supporting each other and talking about it. We both sit on the same value line. So when I had my children, I didn't actually go back to work. I did in between, but they were little casual jobs. So that gave me an opportunity then to delve into, okay, well, how do I get this under control? Because you want to be able to have money for Christmas and for birthdays and go on holidays, because it's no longer all about just you, it's about the family. So we went through a stage of purchasing a property, and then we actually had an investment property as well. And to cut a long story short, we ended up having a change in financial circumstances and relocating. And I got super scared and ended up just saying, like, we're going to sell the lot. And so we sold our beautiful home that we had built and an investment property that we'd purchased, all because I got really scared because I couldn't manage our money. And I had no system to work from. I kept on asking our accountant, what do I do? How do I get my money under control? Where do I put it? And he wouldn't give me that advice. So that's when I really started looking.
So when you and Evan started dating and getting serious, when did the money conversation about, I'm assuming you join your money together, by what you just told us. So when did that start getting serious where you started to pool all your money together?
After we moved in together. So we lived together before we married. So that was openly discussed. So I'm fortunate in that area that there was no discrepancies or disagreements. We just joined our money together and basically paid the bills, as we said.
Did Evan have any system as well, or no? No,
No, he had no system either.
At least you're in alignment, which was a good.
I really love, in your quick bit of back bio that we've got here in front of us, it says, I was seeking new strategies on where to direct our income and control our expenses. So you're absolutely right. In terms of how did you discover and what journey did you go on, I think you're like so many other people who are looking for strategies, and we call it a system, to basically organise your money and control it and then thrive with it. So tell us about how you came across the book.
So it was around September last year, because normally I review all of our insurances around September, October, and I started planning for 2019 and realised this is just rubbish. We actually have a home-based business, so I just utilise the Reckon software, the cloud software Reckon.
Yep.
And I was having trouble working with the data that I had. It wasn't, I'm very visual, so I thought there's got to be a better system. So I just thought, I'm not even going to Google it. I'm just going to get in the car, go to the nearest bookstore and see if surely someone, Koshi or someone's got to have brought a book out by now. So that's when your book popped out of me, because the title is what I was seeking. I just want to make my money simple again. And that's exactly, why the book popped out at me. And I went, finally, I found something that I can work with.
So talk us through that. You pick up the book. Was that the first attempt, or had you tried a couple of other books?
No, I'm once I make a decision, that's it. I go for it.
Oh, okay.
So I brought the book home.
We're still in stock. Everyone must have been sold out.
I do wonder which path you might have taken if there wasn't the book in that store.
I don't know either, but all I'm saying, I was very grateful it was there, that I wasn't allowed to at least, act upon it.
So you weren't exposed to any of our other material, the podcast or anything at this time. We were foreign to you.
Yes.
Okay, so you bring the book home. How long does it take you to implement what you'd read?
So I read the book back to front in a week, and then I went back the following week and actually highlighted everything that I needed to make amendment to, because most of it was pertinent to us. So, and then that took me about another week, because obviously you've got life to live in between. And then I set a task on, implementing the steps and making the changes.
And how long did that take you to actually get it? So from the moment you sort of gathered and sorted, and to actually feeling a bit of peace that you had a bit of a rhythm? Because even though you implement it, you trip up a couple of times. Correct. And you go, oops, I've overspent on my 7-day float, and oops, I didn't think about that. How long, what did that sort of process look like for you?
Well, there was a lot more in it than originally I thought, because it's not just go and work out your living and lifestyle expenses, it's all your banking, because I had to sort all the banking side of it out. So from the moment I bought the book up until when I actually fully implemented the Money Smart system it was the start of December. So I went in the September to buy the book. So it took that long for me to obviously go through the book, work out what I needed to do. Then I had to work out I had to open up new bank accounts, offset accounts, obviously linked to the mortgage that we had. I didn't know how to utilise that offset account. Our mortgage broker hadn't explained that to us at the time. Wow. So obviously I had to set those up. Then I had to close the other accounts. I had to change the direct debits that go in and out, that went out of our old account. Gosh. I've got
a question for you. Did it simplify? I mean, obviously there's that pain.
Yes.
There's that reorganisation pain, and that's true. But how many accounts were you running your money out of before you sort of, went for this system?
Just the one. Well, we had 2 business accounts, and then obviously our family account. Yep. So we just had the one, but everything was being pooled into it, and was either make up a massive big spreadsheet, which sure I could have done that, but I had my reckon system that I was just printing my reports out from, because I update that at the end of every month. Yep. So I just opened obviously the 2 accounts, the bills and living and lifestyle, and I was able to use the reckon reporting to be able to identify what my living and lifestyle expenses were, what my bills were going to be, and also my provisional spending. And
did you use the platform that we set up?
Absolutely. As soon as I had that all sorted, I was like, right, now I need a visual.
So you load all the data in, and obviously all the calculations are done for you in terms of sorting them out in the virtual jars. What did seeing it in the visual sense do for you once you looked at the dashboards and so forth? Did it sort of give you more insights and more understanding?
Yeah, for sure, because it gave me a visual. It actually gave me a picture instead of numbers. Yep. So therefore I could actually see where our current status was. But it also worked out where I could go to, like especially with provisional spending for the year. So obviously I'm coming up to the end of that this year. Yep. And I'm about 3,500 ahead. So for me, the visual is what was most important. That gave me that confidence and going, okay, it's going to work. Don't worry, because my husband, Evan, does often say, stop getting caught up with the detail and just focus on the big picture, because I love detail, and he's the big picture person. So he always says, don't get caught up with the detail. So that's what I'm saying to myself, just trust the system, and that's proven.
Hey, can we circle back, because the system we've set up is not rocket science. You'd agree, it's pretty simple, right? A couple of accounts, and a 7-day float. It's not that difficult, but it's in the little details that often can trip you up. Usually for most people, it's starting, because 80% of winning is beginning. But you talked about offset. You probably find a lot of our community of people may have had a similar challenge to you. So what was offset to you prior to our system, and you said you didn't know how to use it and the mortgage broker hadn't introduced you to it. What was the aha moment and the epiphany you got when you realised that there was some real power in having an offset account?
Oh, well, as soon as I read the book that week, I brought it home. I was like, why wasn't I told this? Like, we've been saving so much interest in our home loans. So the other thing is, obviously, then I did my binge with the podcast.
So you discovered the property couch, yep.
Of course. That was what I meant by the binge with the first 20.
Yeah.
But by the time I think I got to your, obviously I read the book and went, oh, there's a podcast with this. And I love podcasts because I'm in the car a lot.
Yep.
So my kids don't like listening to my podcast, but they love listening to yours. They're like, not that money one again, Mum.
I thought we were going to be in the gun then,
Yeah,
so thank you for that.
There's two middle-aged bullheads.
But so once I realised, and then I started listening to the podcast and realised that it's not just the daily management, it's the bigger picture and where the offsets, how much money we could have saved and been really putting it to good use a much longer time, because we now are 5 years into our mortgage on this property, and I've only made a difference in the last year. So the first 4 I could have made a much better difference. Yeah.
So one of the motivations, Gabby, has obviously been about getting in control, right? So that's you obviously are an attention to detail person. You've acknowledged that. So how much control, once it was all set up and running, did you feeling? Tell us about this all money moving everywhere, not sure where it's all going to go. How much did it give you peace of mind and comfort around that control piece?
Yeah, hugely, because when a bill would come in, I would say to myself, so the mindset is normally you go, where am I going to pay that from? Have I got enough money? But a bill would come in and still does now. And I go, it's okay. I've accounted for that. Yep. It can straight out of the bills account and I would pay it, accordingly. To me, there's not a concern. I know the money's there and it is accounted for. So there's been a change in mindset when it comes to peace of mind, and knowing that it's okay. Don't panic over it. It's accounted for.
And how many? Obviously, under the Money Smart system, the whole beauty of it is you don't have to track everything. Just what you were just saying then. How many provisional accounts have you set up for yourself? Like, which ones do you want to track versus which ones are being automatically paid on credit card versus sort of what you've got going in your 7-day float?
Yeah, so that was the other thing in the setup after I got the book. Was to change the current credit card that we had with our previous bank, and the fees were incredible. It was like $119 a month plus an additional $10 additional user fee or additional card fee.
Okay, yeah.
So I was like, okay, that's got to go. And so then we applied for another credit card. It was actually in my husband's name. So I've decided not to use that credit card. We just use it for him when he travels. Yep. And it has no fees, no international transaction fees, and I am looking at maybe implementing that system for having bills paid off that credit card next year. Yeah, so I just wanted to see how this year went, because we obviously had no outstanding monies on our credit card. I just wanted to see how the whole system worked for a year first.
Yeah, right.
So that's worked great. So we obviously had to change credit card over. Back to your question, what was the other one?
The provisions. So what ones are you provisioning for?
Yeah, so I should have double checked that before my printout.
No, that's all right. So
things like clothing. Yeah,
yes.
Things like clothing.
Holidays.
Yeah, clothing and holidays are the two big ones. They're the ones I sort of make sure I keep an eye on. That's really mainly where our big expenses go. We don't have, I don't know, we're not big spenders in the provisional with furniture and all that sort of thing.
So what about the monthly check-in in the terms of the checkup? How long is it taking you to basically, following the system? You basically only need the 2 numbers, which in your case, it's only 1 number, right? It's the balance at the end of the monthly statement. You load that in and then you add to the provisionals, in terms of your expense audit, but that's it. So are we true to form? Is it less than 10 minutes a month?
No.
Oh, okay. Can you tell?
Well, it's probably because I like to check everything. So, so maybe it probably takes some people 10 minutes, but it probably takes me half an hour. So.
Okay. Oh, that's still pretty good.
We'll give you the extra.
So compared to what it took you with Reckon, let's put it up against.
I still do Reckon because we have a trust, so therefore I make sure that's all updated.
Accounting, but
for the account.
Doing the household accounting, has that saved your time compared to running this system versus what you might have run?
For sure. Yeah. Look, it saves me time, but it's also groceries. That's the other thing too with your living and lifestyle. I had to work out, okay, how much are we spending for groceries? And then when I realised how much I was spending, I was like, holy crap, I need to a bit.
It's that conscious versus unconscious, right? So you've picked up some savings on the credit card. It was, you're getting charged on everything on that. And then now you've got an awareness of each of your expense items and what you are spending in that category, which has got to be helpful, right? In terms of kind of, and as you said, you're $3,500 above where you thought you would be in terms of when you set your plan up. So you're obviously making some savings because there's just some awareness, whether it's conscious or subconscious in it.
Oh, it's both. No, it's both because look, there's other things in the provisions I've accounted for, like for things like I was going to buy some new furniture or carpets, but I thought, well, don't really need them this year. Maybe I can just tap them onto next year. We'll see how we go. So that's
great.
That's one way of
Yeah, that's cool.
Gabby, let's chat about your 7-day float. How's that going? What day do you pay yourself your 7-day float? And what were some of the things that you encountered when you first implemented it that may have thought, oh, gee whiz, I didn't expect that?
So I've just followed your recommendation to, I actually pay us from the business on a Thursday and it goes into the living and lifestyle on Friday. Mm-hmm. So we have a separate bank account, obviously, for the living and lifestyle. So it was the kids actually that had to adjust to it because because we actually sit around the dinner table. The big thing for me to have and talk about things that I didn't have growing up, and that was just to discuss things like money. Yeah. And so I said to the kids, look, I'm implementing this new system. I'm only going to be grocery shopping either on a Friday or a Saturday, and I won't be grocery shopping through the week unless it's for staples like bread or milk. And they're like, oh, Mum, but because they were worried they were going to miss out on things, right? Yeah. And I said, well, it's because I've got a budget I've got to stick to, and it's just to help us all and to make sure that, that we can fit in with the budget I've set. And I said, do we still get tuck shop? I went, yes, you can still have accounted for tuck shop. But I get tuck shop on a Friday, which works out great because obviously the pantry and the fridge starts to get pretty lean by Thursday night. And then Friday's tuck shop, and then obviously from there. So I messed up a little bit initially because you're still getting used to how much you need to be putting into that account and accounting for. And also it took a little bit of time to sort of work back on my groceries and be a little bit more organised with my meal planning. So I knew what I was actually going to have in the freezer to be able to cook and things like that.
Very good.
So for people who don't have conversations with their kids at the dinner table, and you are, obviously you talk to them about the budget and where I'm going to spend. What are your observations of some of the conversations you're having that have the most cut through for someone who's listening to this going, oh, I might be able to fast track my conversations with my kids?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a boy who's in grade 8 and is about to go to grade 9. So he's a little bit more astute when it comes to money, has his own little bank account. So it's my daughter. It's actually trying to get her to understand the value. And she's grade 6, about to go into grade 7, understanding the value of money and how much things cost. Mm-hmm. So that I'm still working on that. We're still consolidating that. Look, that'll come in time. But that's the idea of having the discussion. Sometimes I might play a little game around the table as well. But it's not just money. It's just about being mindful about just things in general. So.
Get her to rake the leaves for 3 hours, right? And then say that you just made $15, and then those pair of jeans are $90. So you're going to have to rake that. As soon as they get that, and they get that physical labour, tell you what, the penny does drop. I mean, with our boys, how much am I going to get for washing the car? $5. $5 washing the car? Yep. So you're going to have how many times you have to wash the car before you get your next video game? Oh, right, okay. The good news story for us is that you cashed out of everything.
Yes.
And now you've set up, you've relocated, and so you've now got a money system that's working for you. What have you then done? Obviously, you started listening to the podcast. What was the next step in the journey for you in terms of making your money work harder for you?
So for me, my goal was to at least see if it worked for 6 months, and obviously that was. And then the other thing that was worrying me was, like, obviously we're not getting any younger, and I was like, how much super do we need to, money to be post-contribution, do we need to be putting in for super? And obviously then listening to the property couch, I was like, I'd be prepared to go down the property road again now that I've got our money under control and I know where it's going and how the system works. So that's why I thought, okay, well, we need some sort of a financial plan. So that's when I decided, okay, well, let's get one of those happening. So because I like to know where I'm going, and especially if there's differences of opinions with people that are surround you and they come up and go, oh, we're doing this or we're doing that. To me, I'd like to have a solid plan to know that it's okay, this is my plan. It's in my back. They don't need to know that. But if I've got a plan, I feel a lot more, I've just got that peace of mind. I feel better about things.
Right.
So Gabby, you said you said, quote unquote, you're scared and I sold the lot, previously. That was pre-Money Smarts. What can we make would you have done the same thing now knowing what you know? No.
No, definitely not.
So what's the before and the after? So was it just the peace of mind that was lacking previously that you just thought, well, when all else fails, just liquidate, versus now the piece of, can you talk us a little bit through before and after?
Yeah, I think previously to Money Smarts, I think it's just becoming a little bit more aware of where your money goes, but understanding debt and how it can actually assist you in the long term, and using the equity that you've got, particularly with property. So, and looking at the big picture of that. Previously, I wasn't able to understand that, but now I do. I think my understanding now is if you get the everyday systems in place, and you have a long-term plan, utilising the current equity that you've got in the home to be able to buy another one and then another one, the system will work if you can just get the everyday under control.
So, Gabby, what I love about your story is also that you're willing to put the work in terms of educating yourself. So you mentioned earlier, you've obviously got an e-commerce business, and you were looking for strategies where you can organise your money. So you thought, well, if I couldn't find anything online, maybe there's a book that can explain it to me. And you listen to the podcast. So obviously you're educating yourself. And is that consistent in your life in terms of where you do the piece of education work and then you go after it? Or you don't seem to be someone who does something ad hoc or, crazy left of field without, or, spontaneously?
Yeah, but I'm just a person who likes to continually improve. I think if all these wonderful people out there are constantly creating things, well, why not use their ingenious to be able to facilitate and help you in your own life? It happens every day. So the other thing that I was going to come back to with the living and lifestyle, the other thing that I found that, okay, well, I wanted to get my grocery bill underway, and I thought, grocery bill sorted. I thought someone's got to have an app where I can just keep an eye on that every week. So I've downloaded Pocketbook just to keep me an eye just on the living and lifestyle. And then I can see how much, I can just quickly go, well, that's how much I've spent on my groceries this week. Because obviously other things come out of your living and lifestyle, but it breaks it down so that I can see how much I've been spending on my groceries. So I like to utilise other people's creativity and learn from them. Hence why I learn from you guys.
Very good.
And you love the detail. Hey, okay, so take us from, for someone who's listening to this and they haven't implemented Money Smarts, but they want some of the financial piece that you're talking about. You've gone from, I was scared and sold a lot, to now being in control of your money. What does it look like for you going forward in terms of, okay, because a lot of people burn a lot of emotional energy worrying about money. You don't have to burn that energy, so you can actually channel it in other areas. So tell us about what that looks like moving forward, and the piece of knowing that you're going to pass on a really cool legacy to your kids because you're having conversations about it, and then they can come and use you as a mentor to what they should do when you were faced with the decision you had with your older brother. They can actually come to you. What does that feel like?
Yeah, I suppose what I'm doing is actually using my nieces and nephews a bit of a trial, because I'm the youngest, so all the older brothers have had their kids. So, and it's interesting seeing the different attitudes towards money with kids now these kids are in their early 20s, and how they don't really want to listen to what you've got to say. So, because they want to do it their way, which is, I remember being the same age. And for me, I would want to, at least if I can show that I've done the right thing and followed the steps, then I suppose I can then prove that, okay, this is how it works and the system to be actual to follow. And with my own kids, I think it's just a matter of, monkey see, monkey do. So I think, if I just continue following my steps that you guys have shown me and following the financial plan that's been put together, I think in the end, everything will come out rosy-dory, and I hope that someday family does come to me for some advice.
Well, you've got a property portfolio plan underway. You're basically putting everything into action, which is what we pray for in terms of why we teach and why we share this knowledge. In terms of listening to all of Bryce and I rabbiting on for as much as we do on the podcast, what other big takeaways can you recall from some of the episodes that you've listened to that gave you the confidence to act on actually going back into property and going into investing?
I think understanding the financial sector as a whole, and actually I think too, saying that I do like to continually improve myself. If I don't understand the jargon, I think if you just listen to it enough, you start to get it and understand it. Nice. So even though I'd heard a lot of the words and the terms before, to me it's like, well, just keep listening to it. You don't understand it, doesn't matter, just keep listening to it. And I found that with the podcasts and hearing other people's stories and you interviewing so many different people, that I realised that it all sinks in one form or another somewhere along the line. So my attitude is just remain open to it. Your confidence will come. It has come. And it will continue to improve just the more I listen and the more I want to go and learn. So
brilliant. Yeah. So what's the end game? What does the property plan forecast sort of tell for you? How many properties and by when? And if you don't want to disclose, that's fine. But broad idea, or if you want to sort of say what your target is per week or something like that, that's great.
So we are gearing up to buy our next investment property from January. Yep. So we've got till May to settle. So we've got to find something between now and then. Yep. And then I have up on the wall over here, I've got my proposed future income and expenses to keep me on track with what I'm supposed to be doing. And then we then are looking at relocating up to near the beach after the children all finish school. So that's in 7 years' time. Yep. So between now and then, I forget the year, I think it's 2025, we're looking at buying that property that we're looking at moving into up on the coast. So we only plan on purchasing another 2.
Excellent.
We're encouraged to buy three. But of course it comes down to your investment, your risk profile, and we're pretty conservative. So.
That's all right. Walk a mile, see a mile. If 2 gets the job done and you can relocate or to, the lifestyle location you want to live in, that's the story here, right? It's not about the number. It's not about what others want. It's about, a tailored solution for you guys. So good on you.
And Gabby, you're breaking down a myth too by telling your story too, that you have to have scores and scores of properties, right? Because the headlines that get most of the attention is usually on the front page of the magazines or whatever, where it's 7 properties in 7 months or 10 properties in 10 years, whatever that is. You're just another example where you can actually do it under 5 properties. You can be a conservative person who likes the detail and still not have to hock yourself to a position where you feel uncomfortable, and yet still, have the financial piece today whilst knowing where you're heading going forward. So you are a wonderful example to our community of it can be done without being flashy, without being high risk takers, all those sorts of things. You can actually do it and still do life really well.
Boringly beautiful.
Yes.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
If you want to get your thrills, go bungee jumping is our... you need adrenaline, go bungee jumping, because it should be a very boring, methodical, conservative plan that gets you your get-rich-slow scheme, which we're encouraging. So I never get sick of interviewing people like you, Gabby, someone who has taken the knowledge and then acted on it. The theme of our summer series of people that acted on it, you've done it. You started in September of 18, you had it implemented by December of 18, you're now about to have your first anniversary of a rollover, you're in control of your money, you've trapped an extra $3,500, and then you're in a position where you're creating a legacy for your kids, you're modelling what it looks like, and you've got a plan to know where you're going. So I've said it all the time, Ben, but I'm going to say it again. It's brave, you're authentic, you're transparent, and do not be surprised by how many people's lives you'll change by being as transparent and open as you have been about your journey. So thank you for doing that.
Thanks so much for having me.
And all credit to you. And we always like to give you the final word in the summer series. Have you got any tips or anything else you want to share with the community that you think would help them on their journey?
Just don't lose the faith. Just believe in the system. That's why I'm here today talking to you. Believe in what other people have done as well, and be kind to yourself, because you can get really tough with, this didn't work, or I'm spending too much here. Yes, you still have to live, but just account for it and have faith that the system will work.
Beautiful.
Well said. Well,
fantastic.
Enjoy that financial peace. Enjoy the rest of the summer with your family. And again, thanks for coming and sharing your story on the Property Couch. We appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
Mate, how good was that?
Yeah, she's quality. Her and Evan are just getting on with it, right? So she put. I mean, this is textbook. I wanted a strategies to where I direct my income and control my expenses. Couldn't find it. Went out, found our book in a bookstore.
Yeah, lucky. Thank you for the
lucky
publishers.
her, right?
For
But
the
there we go.
distributors for putting that in.
Good. Yeah. So everyone else was sold out, so she got our book.
No, mate. We were at the front of the queue, Benjamin. We're at the front of the queue.
Organised. She's got it all in place. And now, how's 3,500 in front?
3,500 in front.
Coming into the end of the year. So,
and then has a decision, Ben, that everyone is faced. If I have 3,500, if I just have any form of surplus,
it's more than she had a surplus starter with.
And then
she's 3,500 on top of that.
Talk about swimming in the flags, Ben.
That's
she was
it.
well in the safe zone.
Well and truly.
But so people, when you find yourself in the same situation that Gabby and Evan were faced, you have got a choice. You can either spend it on lifestyle choices, Ben, or you can put it into your investment program, whichever your persuasion is. Clearly for Gabby, that's property. You can then just amplify that, pay down some debt. Imagine what that $3,500 does sitting on an offset. Didn't know what an offset was, Ben. Now just can't live without one.
And now Gabby, she's going to be listening. The kids are in the car because they've asked to put on the podcast.
Yes.
So, g'day kids, how are you?
Yes.
You've got a great mum and dad because they're teaching you about money management as well. So you're going to be well served. They're teaching you how to fish rather than feeding you fish for the rest of your life. So once you know what you know, you can't lose that knowledge, and that's beautiful. So an absolute joy to interview those guys.
Thank you again, Gabby. It was wonderful, Ben. So I'm enjoying this summer series, Ben. It's just for people who we are showcasing people who knowledge is empowering, but only if you act on it. Here's a case where Gabby is acting on it. Now we set it up. James has shown you what the habits are.
Yep.
Now Gabby kicked us off with acting on it, and then for the remainder of the summer series, we've got some wonderful guests. But before we sign off, Ben.
Yes, mate. What do we got?
A couple of reminders.
Yes.
This episode was all about how Make Money Simple again.
Yes.
Was able to transform Gabby and Evan's life.
Yep.
So we're going to make it available to everyone.
Yes, we are.
For free.
That's correct.
At makemoneysimpleagain.com.au.
Beautiful. Won't be there forever.
Won't be there forever. And Ben,
yes, mate.
We had a Black Friday sale recently. I'm just saying we're extending the opportunity to get a free book, Ben.
A hard copy.
A hard copy.
Rightio.
So the Make Money Simple Again is a digital copy. If
Yes.
you want a hard copy of our first book,
Yep.
The Armchair Guide to Property Investing, you can go to thearmchairguide.com.au. And if you pay for the postage and handling, the shipping, Ben, we've actually bought the copy for you, so you can get that for free.
Love it.
So if you find yourself faced where you've got some surplus cash, Ben, you don't know what to do with it, that book is perfect. So thearmchairguide.com.au.
Gabby showed us how to organise your money, and then she put a property plan in play. So she's basically
textbook,
a perfect student in terms of getting organised, getting educated, and taking action.
All right, mate, you're anchoring this episode. What happens from here?
I think you just sign out for us.
Okay. So
go for it.
You're going to give me a little lead in like I did for you for the last...
Until next week, Bryce.
Well done. Well done. Knowledge is empowering, folks, but only if you act on it.
Until next week, see you later.
Hey there, folks. Bryce Holdaway here. Before you go, if you're new to our community and only listened to maybe a handful of episodes, I thoroughly recommend that you go all the way back to episode number 1, where we unpack all of the foundations when it comes to property investing. Now, for those of you that might be a little bit time poor, I've got good news for you. We have a binge guide that you can download straight away, which summarises the first 20 episodes where Ben and I unpack the foundational pillars of the A, B, C, D, and so much more. And you can get that straight away. If you go to thepropertycouch.com.au/TPC20, you can download it and consume it whenever you want. It's completely free and available now. And for those of you, just a quick reminder that nothing we've spoken about today constitutes financial advice. We recommend that you reach out to your licensed professional advisor so that you can look at your unique circumstances before acting on any information. Now don't forget, go to thepropertycouch.com.au/TPC20 and get your binge guide today.